Hi, my name is Dr. Laura Anderson, and I'm a child and family psychologist who's been working with kids and families in a bunch of different settings and different places for the past 20 years. Common Core Psychology Services provides consultation and training and kind of coaching around a lot of different topics, but especially Common Core is the place where two circles overlap, where they intersect. And I do a lot of work around intersections and people navigating differences and bridging differences. And that leads me to one of my areas of greatest passion, which is people who are parenting expatriate in the expatriate lifestyle, parenting third culture kids. And I've been lucky to be able to do that for moments of my life as a parent and working professional as well. And so I've just decided to offer these consultation minutes or these conversations from Common Core so that people can get a sense of what I bring to families and kids to try to help them maximize all the wonderful things that come along with living in that life. As I've said in other video clips, it's a fabulous life that's hard to recreate in many ways. There are things about it that are wonderful, and opportunities afforded by living internationally and in an expat life that you don't get when you're at home, and that are life-changing and worldview broadening. All that's true. It's very true. And like any path in life, as with any path in life, there are parts that are really hard and very distinct. And people who are in that life with their kids and families are really trying to navigate things that are pretty distinct. And if you haven't lived it for bits of time or been really close to people who've lived it for long bits of time, it can seem really foreign, pun intended. It can seem like a very strange world. And I think one of the things that comes up for me, or came up for me when I was working and living, I worked at international school as well. And I think that piece around schooling and third culture kids is also a really interesting one. And what I want to offer a couple minutes on today is just how parents can think about helping their child settle in to international schools and figuring out the social rules and learning how the academics work. We know that there's curriculum that's supposed to be consistent across most international schools with the PYP and MYP and IB curriculum. So part of that consistency is really nice for our kids if you're able to have your kids in those schools as they transition to your new living environment. But school is such an important part of kids' lives that if we're not communicating openly with school and we're not helping set our kids up for success in school, it can be pretty lonely. As we know, a lot of, especially if you're in developing parts of the world, international schools provide a lot of the social circumstances too, and a lot of the social situations, and a lot of community is built around people and families and other kids and peers who are at the school. And so it'll be really important for parents to feel like they've got a really good handle on what's happening at school for their kid. It's also important if you have a kid who's got any kind of learning difference or an exceptional learning style, both in strengths and in challenges, who has delays or needs accommodations in school. It can be a real dilemma for families to think about how much to talk to schools ahead of time about a child's learning needs, because we know that, especially if you're working for a government entity or if you're trying to choose schools, not all schools have the same services available for kids. There's a pretty wide variability in my experience in international schools in terms of how kids are being supported. A lot of that depends on staffing, depends on staffing turnover, it depends on who's there and who is working there for the same period of time that your child will be there. And it's one of the tricky things about navigating international schools. And so I'm able to help talk to parents about the kinds of questions they should be asking the school ahead of time. There's a dual truth, a complicated truth, that on the one hand, parents are hesitant to disclose if their child needs significant specialized support because sometimes acceptance to a school can determine whether or not a family can go to a certain location, for instance. But the flip side is also true. If your child isn't in a learning environment that can't possibly meet their needs, then your family is going to have different things to kind of navigate. Neither is horrendous. Both just take different navigation skills. And so I work with families to think about what kinds of questions to ask international schools, how to talk to international schools about their child's learning needs without creating a lot of concern or red flagging your child in some way. Having worked for nearly 20 years in school settings, I feel pretty confident in the kinds of communications that are helpful to and with schools, and in great ways to set up effective homeschool communication strategies. So it's an invitation to reach out to me if you've been wondering or thinking about, you have a pending move and you're curious about how to learn more about what the school does and how to read between the lines in school advertising and school programming about how they may be able to help your child, and also how to think about teaming with your child's school to bring out the best in them once they are there. And if they need different types of support, how can international schools work to be able to bring out the best in your child? So reach out to me at drlsanderson@gmail.com or www.drlsanderson.com. Thanks.